Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today on the Five Oncast, your sometimes weekly source for insights into whatever the hell I happen to care about at the time. I am your eternal, ever-burning co-host, Patrick Downs. Some may call me the modern Johnny Blaze. And today I am joined by a good friend of mine, Jared Weiner. He's an account executive at PandaDoc, and I've titled today's episode The Weiner Cast. And this one's going to be about mental health awareness. Welcome to the show, Jared. Do you want to add some color to your introduction?
Yeah. Hey guys and gals. This is Jared Weiner, Patrick's best friend and definitely half brother, but super excited to be here today.
Awesome, Jared. Very happy to have you here. Something I started doing on the last couple episodes is three very personal questions that will help get the vibe for the podcast. And I know you pretty well, but these questions, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to hear your answers. You
I'm
ready?
excited as well. Let's do it, buddy.
All right, Jared, what is your deepest fear and why?
My deepest fear, it's a two-part question for how I'm going to answer. One is leaving this world knowing that I didn't do everything that I could to be the best human being on the planet. And then secondarily, I think having a close-knit group around you, friends, family members, or anyone you put in your close group who wouldn't support you in a healthy way from beginning to end. And I think that's pretty important.
Why is that something that matters so much to you?
I think trust is huge. And as we, dive into our topic of the day, which is going to be mental health, self-awareness, it's really about having that support system. 3 years ago, I had a lot of people around me, but it wasn't the greatest support system. I worked in a completely different industry than today. Today I work in software. I'm thankful to have a great job selling a software I love and working for a company I love. 3 years ago, worked in food service and was just surrounded by people that it was a completely different type of people that I was surrounded by. People weren't as friendly or nice. They weren't as educated. They weren't willing to help other people. They weren't a good influencer, weren't doing the right things, because in the restaurant industry, a lot of not so great things happen. But today it's like, I want to surround myself with the best people. And it's not about the quantity of people that are around, but it's about the quality and how they're going to impact you in a positive and impactful way.
Awesome. Next question. What is
Do it.
one thing that you wish people really understood about you that they feel like you feel like that they don't?
Ooh, this is a good one. I don't know the answer to that, Patrick. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so like a lot of people feel misunderstood, right?
Yeah.
So for you, like, what do you think is something somebody should know about you that they might misread you about, or that they don't fully get why you are a certain way?
Yeah, that's a great way to rephrase it. So I think, to answer your question, when people don't give you the full opportunity or chance without really allowing you to, like, prove yourself and like show who you are as a person, whether good or bad, I think some people can misjudge you, as you were kind of alluding to. So I'm a type A person, but I'm also extremely down to earth, nice, giving, and I care a lot, which a lot of people in my life know I am like that. But I think at first when people meet me, they might see like this rough shell on the outside of kind of like a turtle, and or like porcupine, or like a pineapple that has spikes on it, but they don't like want to get past the layers. And really sometimes you have to get past the layers of getting to know someone to really understand why they're like that, or why they might come off that way at start. So I think, just because you see a book, you see the first page and you read it, doesn't mean the book's going to end like that. And it could be completely, surprising you in an impactful, positive way. So I think giving people a chance is really what I tell a lot of people to try, hopefully strive for.
I think I'm gonna think about you as Jared the Pineapple from now on. I really enjoy that, and it's true. You're a little spiky at first, but you get past the skin, and it's just a really nice interior that
Yeah, I like
has a
that too,
tangy
because
taste.
yeah, no, I love it. Sweet and tangy. And also pineapple represents hospitality. So that's a cool
Oh,
coincidence. And I love hospitality, which is, I left the industry, but I will always have that in me. So I love it. It's good.
it's weird how hospitality is actually going to transition into the last question here. If you could change one thing about how people treated each other, what would that be and why?
I think you want to look at things like the glass is half full instead of half empty. I think you want to look at things of holding the door open instead of closing it for people. And I think it's really about giving that helping hand, going that extra step, and taking a half a second to help someone and put a smile on someone's face is what's going to really differentiate how we change humanity. Because right now we are living in the most screwed up year in probably the last 120 years, next to a couple of the world wars. So I think if we want to move forward in society, it's about smiling behind the mask and opening the door up for other people and just being kind is really the key aspect, empathetic.
Love that, man. Yeah, I think it's important right now. And I hope that a lot of people take this and as we move on, like continue because I've been really, really heartened by the fact that people are being really good to each other right now. And I feel like kindness is becoming more common. I hope this is something that isn't temporary. And I hope we can take this past the quarantine. I
I
don't know.
agree.
We'll see.
It'll continue with me, but the way that I act, if I'm not going to be treated nicely, then I won't do anything kind for you, but I won't be a jerk. So that's the difference is you don't have to give off bad energy to just go past. You don't have to waste your time. I think that time is a precious thing as well, but yeah, I
Be
agree.
nice to the pineapple and it will be nice to you. I think that's what we need
So,
to learn from this.
exactly. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for setting the vibe with me. I feel like we're vibing well. And going into the
Oh, sorry.
topic, at the top, we had talked about how this is going to be about mental health, self awareness. If you wanted to define that for the person listening right now, what would you say?
Mental health, self-awareness. You know, this is something that I've been working on for probably 3 years. I'm pretty young. I'm 27. So I think we all struggle with a lot of things. Stress, which can come from money, family, work, are usually the three root causes of it. I think not just the stress of it, but you can add anxiety, and I think adding not just anxiety to that, but a lot of people suffer depression. They're either born with depression or they have clinical depression or they go through depressive time periods. Just because you go through a depressive time period doesn't mean you're depressed. I've gone through multiple depressive time periods in my life, probably 3 to 5 that I can think of offhand right now, minimum. But I think the key thing is if you break down the word mental health, self-awareness, it's 4 words. It's something I think about every other day. And Patrick and I even do mental check-ins multiple times a week to make sure we're doing okay. We're really good friends, and I'm very thankful to have Patrick in my life. But I think it's about being aware of how you're doing. So it's asking yourself, having an understanding of your actions, verbally, nonverbal, and have an understanding of, okay, great. Like, am I doing great today? Good. Okay. How can I improve? And really having an understanding of where you sit today, and hopefully how you can be better in the future. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, so like when we talk about self awareness in general, it's being able to look at yourself objectively, right? And go, this
Correct.
is actually what's happening, and here's why. So for mental health, it's like, okay, this is why I'm feeling and behaving the way I am, right? Because sometimes you can just get stuck in autopilot and not know why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, it's easy. Even the most self aware people can fall into that trap.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you do besides maybe like the check ins to make sure that you're staying on the right path and not falling into autopilot?
Yeah, for sure. I think that is key. So first and foremost, the bare bones of what's your day to day like, your schedule. So I do a lot of reflecting beginning of the day. Since I'm a morning person, I'm always looking at my schedule night before, morning of, to know what's going on. I know myself well enough, which is crazy. I know what I can handle, what I can't, and I work hard. I push myself, and I work over 10 hours a day. Like very, very clear. I work over 10 hours a day, almost every day of the week. Monday through Friday minimum. But the key aspect is it's like, okay, like how do I feel at 4 o'clock? Am I exhausted or can I keep going? And it's about the balance of not pushing yourself too far, but having control. So being self-aware, if you step back, reflecting at the end of the day is huge. So you can see how your day was like. How do I feel emotionally? How was my day? How was the outcome? Did I have a lot of problems? Did I have to take out a lot of fires or did I have a great day? I'm in sales, so I know halfway to the end of the day, like how my days go. If clients no show me or there's a lot of traction with things going south and projects not working, which it happens and you have to move on, or did I have a lot of stuff go next stage in the pipeline, and or get stuff signed or get a lot of next steps figured out, or even have great things happen in my personal life, family, friends, whatever. So I think it's about reflecting, and I try to reflect at minimum once a day, if not the end of every day once. I mean, you have to reflect to figure out, how did today go? How's tomorrow going to go? How can I improve? Did I learn anything?
I know you had mentioned like throughout your life, this is something you've cared about. Is this something you feel like you've gotten better at in the last like decade or so? Or has it been your whole life? This has been really important. Something you've been on top of.
Um, yeah, it's a great question. Really, in the last probably 3 to 4 years, as I've matured and as I've tried to figure out who I am as a person, not just professionally, but personally, and who I want to be as a person. I had a VP that I met probably about a year and a half ago, and he told me that I was, after 4 months of knowing me, that I was the most self-aware person at such a young age that he's ever met. And I thought it was funny because I only know who I am, but he's a very experienced person, and not just professionally but personally. And he gave me a huge compliment, which I really appreciated. But he wasn't the only one to say that, and it made me think, like, why am I so self-aware, and how can I, like, differentiate myself from others? So I think the key thing is, I've been working on this, to answer your question, since I was, probably about 20 years old, and I started getting really, good at it when I was probably like 23, 24, because I had started managing people, and it came down to, like, I had to think about what I was saying before I'd say it. I had to be appropriate. I had to be mature. I had to be professional. And I started managing people at like 23 years old, and like, I really wanted to differentiate myself, and I'm not just maturing personally, but also hopefully professionally. And that was really the key driving factor between 23 to 25. And Pandadoc has helped me, with the self-aware aspect tremendously. I mean, the first 6 months, learned a lot about myself at Pandadoc, and I'm in a completely different place, for a good thing, today versus where I was 2 years ago at Pandadoc.
Yeah, and speaking of workplaces, I know that you went to cooking school and you worked as a cook for a while, and then you ended up transitioning to sales,
Yep.
working for a company that resold Xerox, right? What kind of differences have you seen in the way people handle their mental health in, say, like a kitchen or in the culinary world versus in sales?
You know, that's a great question, because the first thing I thought of when you just said that in the last 10 to 15 seconds was, a lot of people have pretty abusive relationships in the restaurant industry, and they go straight towards drugs, liquor, and it's not usually good stuff. They usually don't have great relationships. They don't have really good work-life balance. It's very similar in sales, but the big difference is that people in sales who do well at it usually make money, and people who, are in the restaurant industry don't make a lot of money. So it's really not that different at the end of the day. It's just, they're just abusing their bodies. So I think the key aspect is just happiness, and trying to figure out what makes you happy. If you're happy in restaurants, the people that are really happy, thriving in restaurants, they're usually the most successful. They usually don't do drugs. They usually stay away from liquor. They're usually, having a consistent, balanced lifestyle, because they're the executive chef or the owner. But it's also pretty rare in restaurants. In sales, people love substances. People love drinking. People love having fun and being rowdy. At the end of the day, it's also the same thing. It's work-life balance. I could work over 60 hours a week and just not stop, but it's about stepping back and giving myself that break. Hopefully that answers your question. I know I went a little off topic, but at the end of the day, it's about just being aligned with who you are and who you want to be as a person. Some people want to be the heavy drinker, and we all have those friends. That's not me.
Yeah, and I feel like you're right. There are a lot of similarities, and they're both two professions where people tend to bounce off of it. Like they'll get into it and then go, not for me, and end up kind of moving on. Where in restaurants, it might be a little more physical, in that you're like in a kitchen working all day. At least in sales, we can like sit down and not have to worry about fucking 120-degree heat flying in our
Yeah,
face from an oven.
I don't miss that. I don't miss that at all. I have some horror stories.
I'm sure you do, man. But I mean, it's somewhere in the fact that there's long hours and you're just constantly putting all this work in. But I think it's interesting with sales, you get kind of what you put in, and that it's compensated based on your performance. Where if you look at the restaurant industry, I mean, like you said, someone can be incredibly successful, but until they maybe own their own restaurant or are the head chef, they're not really making any more by being better, right? What kind of
I'll say,
impact does that have on your mental health?
oh, huge. And actually, I was just going to say something and almost interrupted you. Apologies on that. But to add to that, it made me think, and we're on the same page, like, it can totally mess with your mental health. The key thing is, and think of like this, I was 23 going from 23 to 24 years old in the process of getting a promotion. I was working for a company, pretty large corporation, on a revenue scale, they probably do 500 million a year, but due to COVID, it's probably reduced tremendously. But anywho, I was going from being an assistant general manager to a general manager at 24 years old. I was going to go down in books as youngest in company history, probably top 10 youngest. Because the other youngest were all about 24 years old. My restaurant was super successful. I was making the money. We were profitable. We were green on the books. Our sales were up 10 to 12% from previous year. And the raise they gave me was a 7% raise. They gave me a raise that went from 42.5 a year to 45 or 47.5. And really that incremental increase was like a 5 to 7% raise. And I was like pretty annoyed, and they weren't going to pay me more based upon my age. And I literally called them out and said, bullshit. I said, you're not going to pay me more, but my revenue is higher than these other general managers. I have the educational background as well as experience. I worked in the industry, 7 years, a few years in management. I'm profitable, and I'm not just profitable. My revenue is up, and I'm making the organization more money. And you only want to give me that much of a raise, which is still less than everyone else. And they're like, yep, based upon age, because you don't have enough years of experience. And that really frustrated me. It really, the satisfaction of getting that raise or that promotion completely went down because the raise was so poor, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, like, I got what I wanted, but I really didn't get what I wanted. And I only lasted in a general manager position, I think, for about 5 months. I woke up one day, 3 months into being a GM, because at that point you're married to the restaurant. It's your responsibility. Your ass is on the line. I woke up, no joke, March 2018, and I said, I need to get out of restaurants. I need to get back into sales. I need to find my career path back into sales. I wanted to get into software, but no one would give me an opportunity, and thankfully Panadoc did, which is amazing because it's changed my life for the better. And now I'm making well over 3x what I was making in restaurants. But I think point being is, like, I had a lot of stress and anxiety after signing that contract. I wasn't happy. The fulfillment I wanted wasn't even the fulfillment I thought I would feel. Um, and I woke up March 2018. Within 3 weeks, started applying to new jobs mid-April. Got a hold of Panadoc end of April, beginning of May. Got the job offer, I think, some point in like June or July. So I think the key component is that you can work really hard in restaurants. You can grind. You can, bust your ass, but the recognition is just a pat on the back. Or a happy smile, but there's always going to be an unhappy person in the end, unfortunately, from what I learned from 7 years in restaurants. Sales, the more you grind, the more you want to learn, and the bigger impact you want to make. You can definitely get multiple returns, not just from the high five, which I love getting calls from our VP of sales thanking me, which is the most satisfaction thing next to the paycheck, but also the pay and seeing that paycheck come in, which has helped change my life, is the reason I'm in sales. And surely at the end of the day, it's not just that, but I love helping businesses come up with a solution that fixes their problems, because that's why I'm in the job I'm in today.
Yeah, man, it's weird because when I was in college, I didn't even know this was a career path, and
I didn't either.
and we look at Panadoc specifically, and I know there's other companies that do the same thing. We've hired these very young people to come in and do an LDR or SDR job, and they had the potential to make a really good amount of money for like an 18-year-old, right?
Yep.
And then progress very quickly. We have some people that are 22 that are where some people that are like in their 30s are, because they were given this opportunity. And there's not a lot of fields that allow you to do that, right? To move so quickly. And
No.
the problem with that, though, is I've seen a lot of these people get in funks because they're kind of mentally past where they should be. Because it's like, all right, I'm already like an adult. I'm making money. I could probably buy a house and like settle down, but I'm only 22. And I've seen a lot of those people go into funks and not really able to get out of it. A couple of people I really like and respect. Why do you think that is?
Keyword: consistency. And that I'm probably one of the most consistent people, whether you agree or disagree, but consistency is key. That's something I've been working on since I was 23, is keeping things super consistent in my life, with my schedule, with the routine, food habits. So I have, unfortunately, a screwed up stomach, and it took me 5 years to figure out food that, like, not just worked for me, but made me happy, not just happy mental health, but happy gut, shout out to Callan Levingood. I appreciate you a lot for teaching me and helping me. But I think consistency is key. Like my puppy, who's now 5 years old, needs a consistent routine. Being at home for 5 months straight because of COVID, she's been perfect for 5 months straight. She's not happy when she has an inconsistent routine. So I think the big thing is consistency. It's like, okay, great. Like I went from being an STR to AE at Panadoc within 6 months. I hit the level of income I wanted to in 2019. What's the next goal? Like I have three goals typically. I have short-term goals, I have long-term goals, and I have something called the dream. What's the dream? What's the short-term goal that's going to help me get to the long-term goal, and what's the long-term goal that's going to get me what I really want. What I really want in the end, man, is happiness. What makes me happy is when my friends and family are doing well, they're healthy, they're happy, hopefully, and I can't control that. But aside from that, like also there is some financial happiness that, so I don't have to worry about paychecks. I mean, 3 years ago, it was a struggle. I could never have anything on auto pay. The fact that I have all my bills on auto pay today, like that's what makes me happy. I don't want plastic. I don't want a new iPhone. I like the stuff I have. It's quality over quantity for stuff. And I think having the consistency is key to get you there. And these 22-year-olds, like they're crushing it. It's like, okay, great. You got the job. You're making 85 grand. What's going to take you to six figures? What's the next goal after six figures? Other than the money, because the money is not going to get you everything you want. It's going to be about the experiences, doing things with people you love, and honestly, just having fun and being happy.
I love that answer because so many young people and most adults think, hey, if only I can get here, I'll finally be happy. You know, if only I could get this, I'll finally be happy. If I could get this job, I'll be happy. And then they keep getting there and they're like, I'm not happy. And then they keep setting these goals and achieving them. And then, okay, what happens now, right? Like you said, you need an internal level of like, I'm happy because of what I do every day. Like, I
Yep,
can't think that there's some abstract thing out there that's going to finally bring me peace. It has to come from you doing the things you want to do. And I think a
for
lot of
sure.
people get into sales, and like you said, yeah, it's good to have the money, but if you hate it and like it makes you miserable, you got to get out, right? Like you can't just sit there and do it because you think it's going to bring you to your happiness. Because if in 20 years you're still selling, you just spent 20 years being miserable.
Yeah,
That's
the
not going to
grass
change
isn't
anything.
always greener on the other side. It's not always greener, which we know.
No.
So I'll tell you this, I was 21, 22 years old. I was pretty good at Xerox. I wasn't happy. I was actually miserable for multiple reasons. We won't get into it, but I was making really good money and it was there for a year and a half. And I'm like, I'm not happy. I'm going to leave. So I went back into restaurants, then found my way back in sales. And, you know, some people could say like, oh, you bounce back and forth, but like, you want to know what? Panadoc is the longest job I've had in my career, within the 5 year period and my professional career. And I've been here 2 years and I love it. I love my day to day. We don't always have the best days, but even the bad days, it's like, you got to like look past it. You got to understand what happened and not make it the best day. And you have to just wake up the next day and have, you know, hopefully be on that little bit of greener grass, but stay with what you're doing because overall, I'm happy. I'm being given great opportunities and all like I'm being supported internally and I'm being paid the way I want to get paid. And there's endless opportunities. And I think that's what people need to think about is you might not be happy all the time, but how do you feel overall? And that really ties back to mental health, self-awareness, and taking mental health days when needed and really taking a break when needed. Don't push yourself too much, but at the same time, don't slack off because the roller coaster only goes so far.
And I hate having to quote Steve Jobs because
I
everybody
love
quotes
it.
Steve Jobs. But you know that quote where he's like, I look myself in the mirror every morning and I said, if this was the last day of my life, what I want to do what I'm about to do today. And then if I say no to that enough days in a row, I stop doing that thing. I think that's incredible advice. And it's so fucking true because there have been so many days where I woke up and I was like, I don't want to fucking do this. And I just wouldn't do it. Or I would, but I didn't do it well because I didn't give a shit. Like most people who are underperforming at anything, it's not because they're incapable. Like they wouldn't be there if they're incapable. It's because they don't care enough. It's not what they want to do. So I think that's again part of self-awareness. You need to be able to wake up in the morning and be like, is this where I should be? Because if it's not, I know it's scary to change things, but it's a lot scarier to 20 years in a row wake up and not want to do what you want to do. That's a nightmare to me. I'm sure
I
you've
agree.
experienced the same thing.
Yeah. I agree. And I think the big thing is like when you become a more consistent person and you're going down the path you want to go, it's like the advice you gave me last week. I asked you for advice on something, and you literally said, Jared, whatever you've been doing for a year and a half, 2 years, don't change it. Point being is like, last quarter I did really well, exceeded quota, whatever. This past month has been a struggle, and right now I'm at like a third of my quota. And you're telling me, it's not just my best friend and mentor, but you're telling me like not to change my perspective because I'm not anxious, I'm not super stressed, my pipeline looks great. A lot of stuff hopefully will potentially close, whether it's next week or in the next week. But really, point being is it's like don't change what you've been doing because it's been working for a year, year and a half, 2 years. Um, just because you had one bad day, don't let it reflect on how you're going to handle yourself in the future. Don't change what you're doing. Not
But if you have
everything's going to happen
100 bad
perfectly.
days, then you should probably go, okay, this is maybe not where I should be.
Oh, I agree. It takes 3 weeks to build a habit. If you have 3 really bad weeks in a row, then you should really look at yourself. And it doesn't just take 3 weeks to build a habit, good or bad. But if you have 3 bad weeks, you should look at what's happened in those 3 weeks. And if you're not reflecting daily, I reflect daily, weekly, as well as monthly. How did I do today? How did I do this week? How did I do this month? Like overall, I had a really good week. Overall, did I have a good month? Not so much, but I worked really hard end of Q2 and I, exhausted myself the first week and a half. So I enjoyed 4th of July, took 4 or 5 days off, which probably comes down to our next topic, mental health days.
Yes. Yes. Tell me more about that. Why is
What are
that
your thoughts?
important for you?
Before I answer, what are your thoughts?
I think it's so important, and it's something I've been ignoring for a long time. I mean, I don't know where this idea came from, but since I started working, I thought it was weak to take time off. Like if you took time off, like
Nope.
you're not doing what you should be doing. And I told this story on another episode, but when I worked at Yelp, I used to work through Christmas, and I was one of the only people that was in the office. And then people would even commend me for doing that, but I wish they had been like, go home, because that's not something that should be applauded. That's something that should be like taken down, because you need to actually take time for yourself, because even if you love what you're doing, like there's other shit in your life you need to take care of, including your brain. And you can't do that if you're making cold calls for 10 hours a day, every day. You
Nope.
need a break.
Because the quality is not going to be there the first call versus the 100th call if you do it 3 days in a row. And I think the key thing is mental health days. So like everyone's struggling with mental health right now, whether you have a potential illness or disease. Sorry if you do, definitely reach out and get help, because it's not a bad thing to reach out and get help. It's actually a really good thing. But I think the key aspect is like I give myself at minimum one mental health day off a month. What does that mean? I don't work, I go on PTO. Do I always like stick to it? It's hard, but at the end of the day, you want to unplug and do a me day. Mental health day for me is a me day. It's about taking care of me, not really doing anything unless it needs to be done for an emergency, but hanging out with the dog, going for a walk, going to the place that makes me the most calm, which is the beach and or working out. And then making myself a meal because it relieves stress. But I think the key component is that you know, it's scary when you're not like you as a person aren't willing to talk to someone. That doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong. When you start talking about your emotions and the things you want to work on and getting guidance and direction from people and help, that's what makes you a stronger person. When you want to hide under a rock, those are the people that are struggling. That's when you know something is bad. Like I probably have, 3 to 4 mentors. They all help me with different things. Patrick being one of them. I have a sales mentor who's also my coach. I as well also have a life mentor who's one of my really good friends. She helps me with great advice. From dating to things of like, hey, what's your opinion on this? Or like whatever I want help with. And I have another good friend who helps me with something else. So the different people in your life should help you with the different aspects of where you want to go and hopefully make you stronger. And these 3 or 4 individuals for me have taken me to where I am today and are going to help me skyrocket in the future. So take mental health days.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but the mentor thing is important. I haven't had one for about a year, really, like a official one. I think I need to get back on that because that was so helpful for me.
I think you
Um,
do.
but yeah, man, thank you. I think that will be a good place to end our standard conversation. I'll leave you guys with a couple takeaways. So the biggest thing I'd say is find a way to incorporate the things you love into your professional and personal life. For example, like doing this podcast is something I love. I love writing. I'll write on the side. Like, find those little things that aren't your direct work and do them consistently, even if you don't feel like you have the energy to do it, because once you do, you'll find it. Continue to find knowledge and read and learn. Don't give up on like the lust for life, right? Like, if you just get complacent, then you're going to end up hating what you're doing. Be aware of how you feel. If you wake up in the morning and you hate what you're doing, take note of that. If you love it, take note of that. Why do you love it? And then try to figure out how to do more things like that, because so many people in life think, what's that?
No, we're good. I'm going to add one thing to that, Patrick. I cut out on my end.
Go for it.
That's okay. Sorry, bud. I cut out on my end at first. But I think the thing I'm going to add to that is challenge yourself in the best of ways to make yourself better. If I can
100%.
add anything to that. But I love everything Patrick just said.
Yeah, man. And on that note, what are some other takeaways for you?
I'm going to add to that, challenging yourself. I think, looking at the glass half full versus half empty, opening doors versus closing doors. And I think it's really just taking everything day by day. Take mental health days when needed. Learn more about self-awareness. Focus on not just yourself, but the people around you. See what you can do to be a better human being, more empathetic. And lastly, be selfish. Take me days. Take days that are all about you, but see how you can also give back to society, because karma will definitely come around to help you for sure.
Hell yeah. I love it, man. Is there anything that you want to plug? We're entering the plug zone.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely want to shout out Panadoc to help change my life in the last couple of years. If anyone is looking for a solution that's going to help your team go remote with a document creation type solution, make your life easier, that need e-signature, definitely reach out to Patrick, myself, our organization. We're here to help you. And also on top of that, there is an organization called NAMI, which I know has helped out Patrick and myself a lot. And then Patrick, if you want to add to anything about NAMI, I think it's definitely something that anyone struggling, definitely reach out, because, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you, a sad type person. If anything, make yourself vulnerable to help you, get to the next step and hopefully be happy. Happiness is key.
Yeah, NAMI is one of the largest national mental health institutions in our country, if not the largest. And for me personally, it was key when I was dealing with some really tough things earlier in the year. There's a lot of education programs they offer. Even if you don't directly suffer from a mental illness or deal with mental health issues, I think it's always good to get educated on the matter, because I'm guaranteeing you right now there's somebody in your life that is struggling, and there's probably going to be a time that you're going to need to help them. So get educated, learn how to do things, because there's certain ways that you need to treat certain situations. Also, there is a helpline. If you don't know what to do, because it is not very obvious what to do in a mental health crisis, or if you're not feeling well, you can call the helpline. There are people that are trained to help you, and I highly recommend it. They're super empathetic, and I had somebody talk to me for 3 hours once when I was having a really hard day, and I could say it probably saved me that day. So I highly recommend them. NAMI is amazing. And there's all kinds of other places. Just Googling national mental health institutions throughout the country will give you it. Google is a powerful tool. You can pretty much find anything you need.
I think lastly, before we hop off, Patrick, I'm just going to add to that. If you see anyone struggling, I think it's good to ask them how they're doing, really help them out. If you see yourself struggling, figure out the best way to take yourself forward and hopefully not pause or go backwards. But lastly, I'm very thankful to have Patrick in my life. We have a pretty unique friendship, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship with work, with helping each other through obstacles. Try to find your buddy, because, Patrick is someone I'm going to be thankful to have in my life forever, but it's hard to find a true good friend that's going to help you in a mutually beneficial way. And I think if you can find someone like that, most people are selfish and they just want things from you. But if you can find someone that's going to help you and you can help them, that is going to be the most rewarding thing in life.
Love you, buddy. I appreciate that, man. It was really good to have you on. And thank you for joining us today, dear listener. This is, again, your oftentimes not weekly, but hopefully more weekly soon, source for insights into whatever I happen to care about at the time. I'm once again your beautifully delicious co-host, Patrick Downs. Some would say the Rod Serling of the modern age. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and follow 5 on Friday on LinkedIn, YouTube. Please subscribe to this podcast if you're listening to the 5 on Cast on Spotify and Anchor. You're beautiful. Don't ever change. I will catch you next time. Bye, Jared.
Much love. Bye, Patrick.